All right, so I have constructed my my vase, and the way my camera is oriented, you can't quite see, but I've got this kind of 3D vase constructed. And like I said, this gives me a good idea to make sure that all of my template pieces are going to line up with the sides. Okay, so that way I don't have to cut and paste and try to redo when we're actually working with slabs of clay. Of course, the opening here is still open, so that's the one thing I did not do. Once you have your vase constructed, I want you to go ahead and stand it up, which you can't see if I leave my camera at that angle. Stand it up and take a picture of it from the front, the side, and the back. So that's 3 photos. Insert those into your Notability journal as your process pieces. Okay, so pause right here, take your pictures, put it into Notability, and then you get to undo what you just did. Okay, so now that we know that it's going to fit together, the next thing I'm going to do is just take my scissors and just cut my pieces back apart. Okay, just like this. My pieces will all come back into just a nice little stack. You guys can keep these in your backpacks. I'll get you some storage spaces once I come back to school. In the meantime, just keep these pieces of paper nice and flat in your backpack, and then they'll be ready for you next week when we start on our 3-dimensional vase. Okay, the only other thing I want to mention for this video is doing some sort of interesting cutout. So now that I have my full-size vase done, I know everything fits together, I could maybe think about adding something else onto this really flat piece of clay. In my original drawing, I had an idea of making this kind of long opening, kind of like a narrow V, which I thought that shape would match nicely with the shape of my my slab. And what I was going to do with this particular section here is I was going to cut that out and then have some of my texture coming over the edge right here. Okay, so that kind of indicates where my texture might come out from the inside, fold over onto the outside of my vase. Okay, so I think I'm going to do some interesting stuff right in this area. Lots of big poofy texture just to add some interest and area of emphasis right up here at that top opening. Okay, so if you want to do something interesting or some sort of cutout, definitely make sure you include that in your design. I wanted to do my mock-up first without having to worry about this V because that would make my paper a little bit looser. But now that I know how I want that layout to be, I can go ahead and sketch that on there and cut it out. The other thing I might include is some sort of Elan transfer design down here. Remember, those are the underglaze transfers. There's really intricate designs. There's roses, there's graffiti, there's all sorts of really cool things that you might think you might have a space that you want to put those onto your project. Okay, we'll talk more about those later because I don't think we need to put those on until our vases are constructed. But it might be nice to know if you want to use one, where it would go. All right, so that's where we're going to end for this week. You should have everything constructed. You should be ready to start working with slabs next week. And I also would take just a second to make sure that you guys have every assignment turned in to Canvas. So please open up Canvas, double check that you have your synthetic drawing turned in, you have your heart rattle turned in, and then at the end of this week, you should have a Notability journal up to this point where your vase is constructed out of paper. That needs to be turned in to Canvas. Okay, so that's 3 assignments turned into Canvas. You cannot move on next week. You cannot start making your vase until you have all 3 assignments turned in. Okay, so just double check that, get everything up to date so we start the semester off with some good grades. All right, that's it. We'll work on our slabs next.